Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande Jai Vishwad Brahman Sarvasacharya Shrimad Vedant Ananta Koti Vaishnava. All glories to assembled devotees. All Krishna. We'll start with reading Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, and this is about the League of Devotees in Bhakti. During December and January, Abhay prepared a League of Devotees charter. He wanted to begin vigorous, extensive preaching, following the example of his spiritual master. Once he began to set his goals to paper, the project immediately began to expand beyond Jhansi, beyond India. Of course, the League of Devotees was for the young people of Jhansi. They were already expressing great interest. But Abhay's charter described more than merely evening classes in Kirtan. It was a broad scheme, including a description of the four orders of society: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and detailed plans to accommodate a worldwide religious movement. The Charter set forth a probationary period for prospective members. It described spiritual initiation. It arranged for economic reciprocation between individual members in the League. It arranged to provide lodgings for preachers and defined prohibited activities, illegitimate connection with women, intoxicating habit, diets other than regulated strictly on vegetable kingdom, gambling, and unnecessary sporting or recreation enterprises. To establish his league with the registrar in Lucknow, Abhay required a memorandum of association signed by the league members. In this document, which was to list the objectives of the society, Abhay expressed his vision for the continuation of his spiritual master's mission. Like his god brothers who had created new mattas after the dissolution of the Gaudiya Math, Abhay was forming a new branch of the Gaudiya Sampradaya to be called the League of Devotees. He was not simply claiming proprietorship of few buildings, he was establishing a Krishna conscious society that would expand into a worldwide movement. His intentions were clear, not insular, but were directed towards creating centers for spiritual development all over the world. Abhay wrote, Lord Chaitanya revealed the transcendental process of approaching the absolute truth. And in his teachings, nothing appears to be absurd from the point of human reasoning, and nothing against any religion that is accepted by the human and civilized world. In enumerating the League's goals, he included the opening of centers in all parts of the world, thus establishing the League as an international organization for spiritual developments through education, culture, as also by recruiting members from all nations, creeds, and castes. The League would publish literature in many languages and print a monthly magazine, Back to Godhead. Abhay obtained the necessary signatures for his memorandum of association. He then took the train to Lucknow and on February 4th paid the deposit of 50 rupees and filed his application. He returned to Jhansi. What a wonderful vision Prabhupada had, you know. You can't hear me? Okay. Is it better now? So this is a wonderful vision Srila Prabhupada had in establishing the worldwide movement. And it started from Jhansi. It started with the League of Devotees. So we'll end here. We'll move on to Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we'll speak from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, verse 22. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, verse 22. Aham Dandadharo Raja Prajanam Ihayojitaha Rakshita Vrittidah Sveshu Setushu Hapita Prithak. Aham Dandadharo Raja Prajanam Ihayojitaha Rakshita Vrittidah Sveshu Setushu Sthapita Pritha. Aham Dandadharo Raja Prajanam Iha Yojitaha Rakshita Vrittidah Sveshu Setushu Sthapita Prithak. Aham Dandadharo Raja Prajanam Iha Yojitaha Rakshita Vrittidah Sveshu Setushu Sthapita Prithak. Aham Dandadharo Raja Prajanam Iha Yojitaha रक्षिता वृत्तिदस्वेषु सेतुषु स्थापिता पृथक्. अहं दण्डधरो राजा प्रजानां इह योजितः रक्षिता वृत्तिदस्वेषु सेतुषु स्थापिता पृथक्. अहं दण्डधरो राजा प्रजानां इह योजितः रक्षिता वृत्तिदस्वेषु सेतुषु स्थापिता पृथक्. माताजी. अहं दण्डधरो राजा प्रजानां इह योजितः रक्षिता वृत्तिदस्वेषु सेतुषु स्थापिता पृथक्. माताजी. अहं दण्ड धरः carrier of the scepter, Raja king, prajanam of the citizens, iha in this world, yojitaha engaged, rakshita protector, prittidaha employer, sveshu in their own, setushu respective social orders, sthapita established, prithak differently. Translation by Sri Hiranyagarbha Prabhupada. King Prithu continued, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, I have been appointed the king of this planet, and I carry the scepter to rule the citizens, protect them from all danger, and give them employment according to their respective positions in the society, order established by Vedic injunction. Purport by Sri Prabhupada. A king is supposed to be appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to look after the interests of his particular planet. On every planet, there is a predominating person, just as we now see that in every country, there is a president. If one is president of 10, it should be understood that this opportunity has been given to him by the Supreme Lord. According to the Vedic system, the king is considered a representative of Godhead and is offered respects by citizens as God in the human form of life. Actually, according to Vedic information, the Supreme Lord maintains all living entities, and especially human beings, to elevate them to the highest perfection. After many, many births in lower species, when a living entity evolves to the human form of life, and in particular to the civilized human form of life, his society must be divided into 4 gradations, as ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhagavad Gita. Chatur Varanam Maya Shrishtam, etc. The social orders, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, are natural divisions of human society, and as declared by Prithu Maharaj, every man in his respective social order must have proper employment for his livelihood. It is the duty of the king or the government to ensure that the people observe the social order and that they are also employed in their respective occupational duties. In modern times, since the protection of the government or the king has been withdrawn, social order has practically collapsed. No one knows who is a Brahmin, who is a Kshatriya, who is a Vaishya, or who is a Shudra. And people claim to belong to particular social order by birthright only. It is the duty of the government to re-establish social order in terms of occupational duties and the modes of material nature. For that will make the entire world population actually civilized. If it does not observe the institutional functions of the four social orders, human society is no better than animal society, in which there is never tranquility, peace, and prosperity, but only chaos and confusion. Maharaj Prithu is an ideal king, strictly observed the maintenance of the Vedic social order. Prajayate iti praja. The word praja refers to one who takes birth. Therefore, Prithu Maharaj guaranteed protection for prajanam, all living entities who take birth in his kingdom. Praja refers not only to human beings, but also to animals, trees, and every other living entity. It is the duty of the king to give all living entities protection and food. The fools and rascals of modern society have no knowledge of the extent of the responsibility of the government. Animals are also citizens of the land in which they happen to be born, and they also have the right to continue their existence at the cost of the Supreme Lord. The disturbance of the animal population by wholesale slaughter produces a catastrophic future reaction for the butcher, his land, and his government. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं गुरोश्रुत्पदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगन रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगनललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे. In this verse, Sri Maharaj Prithu is actually saying, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, I have been appointed the king of this planet. The king is actually a representative of the God, of the Supreme Person of Godhead. However, today we don't have that left anymore. The position of king is a very responsible position. Or even if a leader, any leader, president, whatever it is, it's a very responsible position. And one has to make sure that they fulfill the responsibility of the position. Here, Prithu Maharaj is actually reminding himself of his duty. He's reminding him that my duty is to protect, provide employment, and protect my citizens from all sort of danger. So he's reminding himself of his duty as a king. Likewise, we actually also have to think about ourselves as well, because a king does his duty, but we also have our responsibility towards the king, the kingdom, the state. We also have a responsibility to fulfill as well. So you've got the leader and you've got the people who are below the leader. They both have to work together to make progress in a society. So the king here, in this case, he's saying, I am holding the scepter. The scepter is actually, um, you would have seen when what is the king's name? Charles, no, King Charles, right? Yes. When he was uh, anointed the king, he was coronated, he was given the scepter. And the scepter is actually going back to the Vedic times. It signifies uh, justice. It signifies dharma. And it's actually called Rajadanda. Rajadanda used to be given down from one leader to the next. It was handed down in a successive order. So, for example, recently, in Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, was opening up the Parliament House. Before that, he was reminded about the scepter that was given to him, to the first Prime Minister of India, Nehru, as a transfer of power by the British uh, governor, who it was. So this was a tradition, even in the Chola dynasty, way back, going back a few hundreds years ago, where the scepter was given, and the scepter was, as I said, signifies justice, dharma, and the king would hold that and always get reminded that my role is to establish dharma. My role is to provide protection. My role is to be just to everyone. The king's duty is to see everyone equally, treat everyone equally, irrespective of the caste, creed, race, religion, whatever it is. That is an ideal king. When we read about an ideal king, one of the names that comes to our mind is Lord Ram. Lord Ram was an ideal king. He ruled for so many thousands of years, and he treated everyone equally. He never thought that just because I'm a king, I have full rights over my citizen. I can do whatever I want. I can harass them, kill them, whatever. That is not the duty of a leader. A leader is there to inspire everyone. A leader is there to motivate everyone. He engages everyone, in for the welfare of the society. Yeah. Just like, for example, in an organization, we have, chief executive. We might have, in this case, we might have temple president or whatever it is. These are leadership roles, and as leaders, our role is to inspire. You can't, we can't, as a leader, demand someone to respect. We can't demand someone to obey what we tell them. Of course, we've seen in the past in different organizations, different leadership roles, with this president, whatever it is. And we've seen historically, sometimes people can be very demanding, especially the leaders can be very demanding. They can be very cruel as well. But that is not the role. The role of the king is to protect, to inspire, to motivate everyone, and how they can become Krishna conscious. One of the most important things is the king, or the ruler, the leader has to inspire citizens to become spiritually motivated, spiritually inclined, so that they can become devotees of God. Ultimately, that's the most important aspect. There was one kingdom, I think, comes to mind is Manipur. Manipur is actually a Vaishnava kingdom. The king of Manipur became a Vaishnava, Gauriya Vaishnava, and he motivated all his citizens to become Gauriya Vaishnava. Unfortunately, things have changed today. because of democracy. Democracy brings in so many different challenges as well. Before in India, you, we see that there was no democracy as such. It was ruled by the kingdoms ruled by kings, and of course, those kings were just to the citizens. They treated them equally. Of course, we had seen past stories like even King Avena. Sometimes you have some odd ones out who don't do the fulfill the roles of the it's a good king. But mostly we've seen that kings were very uh, focused on for the welfare of citizens. How can my citizens become better? How can I get rid of poverty? How can I provide them protection? Like I said, King of Manipur was very inspired, was very great personality who inspired his own citizens to become Vaishnava. That's one of the first Vaishnava states, I would say. So the king, like I said, always looks after, makes sure that everyone's looked after. Like Lord Ram, for example, was so just that one time a dog came to him for justice. If we read Ramayana, and Valmiki Ramayana mentions about how Lord Rama uh, came, in Lord Ram's kingdom, a dog came for justice. He was seeking justice. What happened is this dog actually went in. There was a sadhu was sitting and meditating, and there was some prasadam left on his side. So the dog came in, hit some of it, and when the dog was eating it, the sadhu kicked him, right? Kicked him and chased him. So the dog wasn't comfortable with that behavior. So he went to the kingdom of Lord Ram and asked for um, justice. I was treated like this. What will you do about it? The Lord Ram um, got all the details and then to find out. And then he said, okay, what do you think? He asked the Raja Rishis and everyone, what can be done about it? So this dog said, you know what? I think I've got a solution. Let me tell you what punishment he should get. So he said, give him a big post of a spiritual organization, a spiritual body. They said, why? Lord Ram said, why? He said, because when he takes up the position of a spiritual society, as a head of a spiritual society, he'll do all sorts of aparadhas and whatnot. And as a result, he will turn into a dog in the next life. Because I was in the same situation myself. So he said, this is the best position, you know. So this is, and of course, Lord Ram punished the sadhu. But the point is that if we do wrong things, then we have to get a reaction as well. Sometimes the next life, sometimes the present life. So the king's role is very important. As we hear that the king shares 1/6 of his citizens' karma. Very critical role. Just like when a Brahmana does a yajna, he also gets 1/6 of his yajamana's karma. In the Niti Shastra, quoted in Haribhakti Vilas, it says that the citizens' sins is suffered by the king. The king's sins are suffered by the Rajaguru, the royal priest. The wife's sins are suffered by the husband. And what was the last one? And the disciples' sins are suffered by the guru. Very interesting point here that Sometimes we don't realize that, but uh, in a grahastha life, we don't realize that. But if you get married, we have to be careful, especially men. We have to be ready enough to take the sins of the wives. So, uh, but um, yeah, we have to be very careful about taking over the sins, the reactions. And if we don't, if the king does not uh, 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 do the right activities, perform his responsibility properly, then in the next life, he loses all his pious activities as well. He actually loses his pious activities. So not only he gets a sense of his citizen, but he also loses pious activity that he has accumulated. So as a king, it's a responsible position. As a leader, our role is to inspire everyone, motivate everyone. How can I be of in service to that person? So as a leader, doesn't mean you demand, but it's you for you to lead the society, lead your people by doing it yourself, and engage your citizens. It's a very very important position. And so it's when you talk about leaders, talking about the president, prime minister, guru, all is are responsible positions. And the role is to provide protection and employment. Here, Srila Prabhupada mentions about, and of course, he talks about the four varanas. Um, Srila Prabhupada also mentions that in Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Varna Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. It's important that these qualities, material qualities, are identified, and then people are engaged into the good end, according to the karma and the quality. That's why Professor Prabhupada emphasized on the importance of establishing Varnashram Dharma. By Varnashram Dharma, the society becomes balanced. These four Varanas are no way in any order big or good. I mean, better and worse. Sometimes we see, particularly in India, we hear about these caste system. And before there was only four Varanas: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. But in the British era, what they did is they further divided the castes into sub-castes and different categories. So then you have Dalit, then you have Mahadalit, you have Adivasi, you have OBC, and all sorts of nonsense categories that does not bear any importance, but it's only a way to degrade people and to make them feel that they are not good for anything. And then, unfortunately, the government of India hasn't done anything about it. And today, people still consider themselves coming from a particular caste. They belong to a particular caste. And in India, it was quite prevalent that previously that people used to marry within the same caste. They would not be able to marry outside of the caste, subcaste, I would say. Now, if you are a Mochi, for example, a cobbler, then you must marry someone from the same background. So this was what was done in those times to further divide the society. And of course, when you divide, the politicians divide and rule policy. So they continue doing that because by using that, they want votes. They want to get the votes of the citizens. They offer all sorts of things, all sorts of bribes to the citizens who are sort of backward class or way, way down. And they would just use them as the vote bank. Um, unfortunately, this is still there, and it's not going anyway. And then, of course, they have all sorts of reservation. Certain castes, certain categories have certain amount of reservation. So it's not based on your economic background, but it's based on your caste. which is not an appropriate way of actually giving, you know, uh, treating your citizens. It should be based on how the economic situation, what the economic situation is of the citizens. And um, so here, it's very important that we have Sri Prabhupada emphasizes that we need to have the four varnas system, varnashram system. And by doing that, there'll be harmony in society. Uh, and because in this society, we have different people with different categories, different abilities. You know, Prabhupada also always emphasized that he wanted devotees, particularly, to be exemplary. You know, he wanted, for example, the mothers. Um, he wanted them to become ideal mother because mother is considered to be the first guru of the children. The children learn mostly from their mother. You know, the dad goes out for work, whatever reasons, hours of time. But when the kids are growing, the mother is the first guru. So an ideal stree or the woman is supposed to provide this guidance. In Vedic system, there's no such thing as uh, sometimes we say that oh we want equality. In fact, there is equality, but there's difference because of bodily uh, designations. We are all spiritual souls. Spiritually, we are all the same, but materially, we are all different because we've got our different bodies, different gunas, different colors. So it is important that we engage our lives in cultivating this culture that has been emphasized time and again by Srila Prabhupada. Remember, I was in India and Mayapur last month, and I come across this devotee who was actually working with His Holiness Bhakti Raghav Maharaj. Bhakti Raghav Maharaj is actually in charge of Varnashram, establishing of a Varnashram Dharma. And this devotee had set up a Gurukul in Jhansi where they have been getting students, people, boys, young boys in the Gurukul from outside. They're not devotees, but they're bringing in people from there, from outside, getting them, and they're not charging any money. They're getting them in with the condition that you stay there and you will transform you. Because there are parents who have children who are completely out of control and they just want to do something about it. And they bring in children like that come to the Gurukul, and then they get trained every day. They stay with other children. They learn everything. They go to Mangalarti every day. They perform all sorts of activities that should be in a Gurukul. And some boys do survive. Some survive for only a year, or some survive for only a few days because they can't adjust to the lifestyle. But those who have survived, they feel that they have become much, much better than what they used to be when they first. The life has been transformed. They're eating food without the offering bhoga, and then having prasadam. And when they go home, the parents who had been eating garlic and onion or even meat, they give up because the child is no longer eating. Because of the child's life being transformed, as a result of that, the parents seeing that child has become better, then they feel that I should not be doing what my child is doing. So they give up as well. So this is one of the wonderful things, and they have established this Gurukul in different parts in India. Recently, they have started a similar thing in Mayapur as well, and there's a lot of demand for it. So by this way, the lives of children, when the life of children get transformed, then they become better citizens, and when they become better citizens, they become better leaders because they know what is my role. So as a leader's role is to inspire, is to motivate, is to do the welfare of the society. Likewise, as citizens, our role is to also cooperate with the leader by obeying the rules of the state or government and following what they want us to do. Abide by the rules and regulations. Of course, there are times you'll find some things that may not be appropriate. But what to do? We can't do much about it sometimes. Um, and of course, we have some leaders who are not appropriate as well. They are character. They do all sorts of nonsense. They're not role models. We definitely have to find someone who's a role model, and we find so many role models in Srimad Bhagavatam, ideal leader. So when the subjects of the king are sinful and not behaving appropriately, then Shastra says, Britya Pradho Danda Raja. When the citizens, when the subjects of the king are not behaving appropriately, then who is responsible for that? The king is, because the king is not, it's because the king's behavior and it's not right, which results in the subjects' behavior not appropriate. So when the um, citizens um, do not behave appropriately, then the blame goes on to the king or the leader. You know? And like I said earlier, the position of Stree is very important. Calf protection is very important. The king is supposed to protect not only the human beings, but all living entities, whether it be um, animals, trees, whatever. Now, unfortunately, we see that today the society leaders actually sanction the killing of animals unnecessarily, and as a result of that, we see all sorts of calamities coming into the country or anywhere for that matter, because of the karma. Cow protection is very important, uh, because from the cow we get so many aushadis, medicines. In fact, I think I was hearing somewhere in Quran also says that uh, that the milk is actually medicine for the body. But I don't know how it ended up killing the cows, but it says that the milk is medicine for the body. And we have to execute our roles. Our roles as citizens of society, the king has to perform his role as the leader of the society appropriately. We must get reminded of our role, what we have to do as citizens. And um, we also have to make sure that we not only look after ourselves, but also look after people around us as well. It's not always a role of the leader, because the leader can't do everything himself. But we, as citizens of the country, we also have to look after each one of us. As devotees, we have to treat each one of us nicely, respect them, and serve them nicely. When we serve the devotees, Krishna gets pleased, ultimately. So today is also Snan Yatra in India, actually Dev Snan Purnima. Today, the Lord in Puri gets bathed with all sorts of uh, holy water before the Lord goes to rest for 2 weeks. And then, of course, that culminates into Rath Yatra. So today is a very auspicious day. There is also a day when my Guru Maharaj, Sisal Bhakti Maharaj, took sannyas, 2 months after getting his first and second initiation. And today also is actually another, reminds me of the story of a great personality who was a Sati Savitri. In Mahabharata, there's a story about Yudhishthira Maharaj asking Markandeya Muni, saying, is there anyone like or chaste like Draupadi? Then Markandeya Muni narrates about Sati Savitri, who actually appeared in Sati Yuga. In Sati Yuga, she was a king daughter, and the king king of Madra. And the king was trying to arrange her marriage. And she said, no, I'm going to find someone myself. So she went out, and on her search, she found a king's son who was basically no longer a king. Basically, he was no longer, he didn't have a king. So they were living in the forest, and his name was Satyavan. Now, Satyavan was supposed to die after a year from the marriage. After he gets married, he'll die in a year's time. So Savitri knew about this. Despite that, but because she had love and affection for Satyavan, she did not worry about that. She said, I'll deal with it when it happens. Even though his parents tried to persuade him not to marry Satyavan. So they got married, and after almost a year was about to pass away, 3 days before the year ended, came to an end, that whole duration came to an end, Savitri started performing austerity to stop his husband from dying. But of course, whoever takes birth dies one day. So one time on the last day, Satyavan was actually sleeping on her lap, and basically was about to die. So when she saw Yamaraja, she said to Yamaraja, please do not take my husband. The Yamaraja said, actually Yamaduta said, actually when Yamadutas came in front of her, she looked at the Yamadutas so terribly that the Yamadutas got frightened. And the Yamadutas went away. And they said, because of Savitri's chastity, we could not bring her husband's soul. We could not bring Satyavan with us. So Yamaraj himself goes and tries to bring Satyavan to Yamlok. So there, Savitri tries to persuade Yamaraj. But because Yamaraj persuaded her that whoever takes birth has to die one day, and he has to die as destined. So Savitri allowed, okay, that's fine. So when Yamaraj was taking Yamaraj was taking Satyavan with him to Yamaloka, because Savitri was so chaste, she was able to follow them. So when she was following Yamaraj and Satyavan and all of them, after some time on the way, Yamaraj turned around and saw Savitri behind. So he said to Savitri, no, Savitri, you can't come. You cannot come with us to Yamlok. So Savitri glorifies Yamaraj. And when Yamaraj because of the glorification, Yamaraj got pleased. So Yamaraj said, I'll give you a boon, whatever you want. So Savitri was very clever. So she said, I want you to restore my father-in-law's kingdom back. So Yamaraj said, Tathastu. So his father-in-law got his kingdom back. And then then Yamaraj started moving along back to Yamlok, Yamaraj, with Satyavan. And despite that, Savitri still continues following him. And after some time, halfway, Yamaraj again turned back and then saw that Savitri was still following. So again, he tried to persuade her to go back. And there Savitri glorified him again. You have such a wonderful personality and so forth. And then Yamaraj got pleased and this time gave him a boon. So he said, she asked that, please give my father-in-law 100 sons. So Yamaraj said, Tathastu. So father-in-law had got 100 sons. And now They were going on back on the track to Yamlok. And Savitri continued following them. Now, when they reached the door of Yamloka, Yamaraj saw Savitri behind. And Yamaraj said, "No, you can't come through the doors. You definitely cannot come. This is it. You have to go back." So Savitri started glorifying Yamaraj again. And out of the glorification, he got so happy and he granted her boon. He said, what do you want now? I'll grant you a boon. So Savitri said, "I want 100 children." Without thinking, Yamaraj said, "Okay, go. You have 100 children." But then Savitri said, "Then how is it possible? How is it possible for me to have 100 children when my husband is dead? No. Then your boon will become useless. I mean, fruitless, basically." So, and she said, "I'm a chaste woman. I can't think of any other man. This is it. This is the only man I loved in my life, and I can't think of anyone else." And because of that, Yamaraj gave back the life of Satyavan. So this is a story of how chastity, a chaste woman, can actually fight for his husband's life. And this story is actually narrated in Mahabharata, Hiranyagarbha by Markandeya Muni. So it is only this particular day that this happened. So many wonderful things. Jeshta Purnima is great day. Snan Purnima, and then Rath Yatra in 2 weeks' time in Jagannath Puri. We'll end here. Anyone has got any comments that like to make? Thank you. Anyone else? Sorry, can you speak a bit, please? I heard it correctly. I'm sorry, I was able to find it a bit difficult to hear, but yes, it's a very good point. A lot of times people don't want to get into leadership positions because they fear of doing aparadhas, they fear of all the trouble that comes with that role. Leadership role is not an easy role. Sometimes you have to be very tough. You have to be very, very, you might not please everyone. And sometimes you can't please everyone. No. Ultimately, you have to see what is important, what is best for the people, for the society, for the organization, for the whatever position you are in. You can't please everyone. I remember, and of course, when you start asking so many people with different opinions, people will give you so many different opinions. No, you shouldn't do this. You should do this. No, this is not right. All sorts of things. So sometimes you have to analyze yourself what is best. If it's good for the citizens, good for the people, go ahead and do it. Don't ask too many people. I remember my Guru Maharaj was was in this situation once, and he was asking for opinion. He was working on a project, and he wanted to get other devotees' opinions. And different devotees were giving different opinions about certain things. And then he went to Srila Maharaj Maharaj, and Maharaj Maharaj said, "Do you think this is good? Is it Is it going to be any? Is it a problem, or is it good? If it's all good, then go ahead and do it. Don't ask too many people, because the moment you start asking too many people, you're not be able to end up doing it in the end. A lot of times that happens when we want to do something. We ask too many people's opinions, and then sometimes we get so discouraged that we end up shelving the whole idea, the whole project. So do it if you think that's good for the people. Um, don't get too many opinions. So opinions lead to shelving the whole idea. Um, did I actually answer your question? Point? Because sorry, I couldn't hear you well, probably. If you don't mind, come forward, please. Well, sometimes, yes, despite it has its challenges, but sometimes you have to take it up, because if you don't take it up, it will go into the wrong hands. It will end up getting destroyed. What's better? Better to take up the role, take them challenges, and of course, before you take it up, you will definitely consult your spiritual master, especially when it comes to spiritual position. Senior devotees get guidance whether this is appropriate or not. Always, I would say, I personally feel that you always get guidance from senior people. Because if you don't do it, for example, if you think there's a need for it and if you don't do it, someone else will do it, and that person might do it terribly wrong. Sometimes it's a hard situation. You might want to completely ignore and avoid doing it, taking up the role, but sometimes you could also do is give it a try. You think that it's not what that I'm putting a lot of pressure on me, it's affecting my spiritual life, and maybe think about giving it up and doing something different. It's just, yes, sometimes people do want to give it up, or they want to avoid it altogether because of the challenges, offenses. Like I said, and the story of the dog in Ramayana, that if you become um, take up a position in a spiritual society and you do also for others, then you end up becoming a dog. And, but I think it's better to become a dog in Prabhupada's kingdom, in the devotees circle, than to be a dog in someone else's house, right? I mean, I'm not saying we want to become a dog, but sometimes we have to take up and make the dip and just take up the position. It all comes down to individuals. Like, if we think that we are in a position that we can maintain, if we can affect our spiritual life, then we can do it. Take it up. But also remember, these leaders, the kings, were not ordinary people. They were not just appointed by people. Unlike today, leaders are appointed by people through election process. In the ancient times, leaders were selected based on the guna, on the valor, on the strength, and the knowledge that they had by the Raja Rishis, by the spiritual the Rishis, the leaders, the society, knowing that this person is the best person for the role. Like, for example, in Mahabharata, we hear about Maharaj Pandu and Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra's eldest. Despite that, Pandu was selected as a ruler because he was qualified at that. And only after the demise of King Pandu, Dhritarashtra took up the throne, because there was no one else to take up the throne. So in those times, the leaders were appointed by spiritual authority. So if your spiritual master tells you to take up a role, just take it up without any hesitation, because coming from a spiritual master, just take it as a service. I mean, I'm just joking. Of course, you have to listen to your spiritual master, and your spiritual master asks you to take up service. Take it up. It's a humble way. It's a service to the devotees, service to the society, and it's nothing wrong. Does it make sense? Did I say anything appropriate? Any comments? Any further comments? Was it all right? You all right? You got a question? Your point, Mike? We don't have to become a guru as such, saffron, closed personality. We all can become Mark Pradershan gurus, right? We can all become the gurus, people around us, inspire them to take up Krishna consciousness. The first guru, of course, generally the mother is the first guru, but then you also have in spiritual life, first is Mark Pradershan guru, I think it is. You can become leader, and you just inspire people around you to take up Krishna consciousness. That's the whole idea. You don't have to become a Tridandya sannyasi to be able to become a guru. Of course, then once you inspire them, each one of us are in one way or another a guru, right? When you join Krishna consciousness, who actually preached to you? But who would have preached you? Who would have groomed you, like looked after you? One of the brahmacharis? That's right. So Brother Prabhu is actually a guru because he's looking after you, he's teaching you. And of course, once you're qualified enough and you are in a position to take initiation, he'll take you to your spiritual master initiation. Then you get the Diksha Guru. So we have gurus at different levels. We have gurus who even teach us music. That's a guru as well. Anyone who gives us knowledge is a guru. So we should respect all the gurus. But yeah, it doesn't have to. You don't have to be a saffron cloth sannyasi to become a guru. Guru, just become. Jare dekho tara kaho Krishna Upadesh. Maragya Guru hoya. So Lord Chaitanya says, my instruction is Jare dekho tara kaho Krishna Upadesh. Whoever you see, whoever you meet, give him Krishna instruction. Krishna. And in that way, you become guru. You don't have to become a Diksha Guru. Diksha Guru is even more important, is in the same level. So you can become Diksha Guru. Guide them. Is that right? Anyone else? No? Yes, Guru. Very interesting question. How do we interact with them? I think the most important thing is have a good relationship is important. First you connect, then you correct anyone. You can't correct anyone. That you are doing all this nonsense things, you should stop this and that. No, you can't. First develop the relationship, so connect. and then correct. Have a jolly relationship, just make them feel that you are representing an organization, make you feel that this organization people are so wonderful, so beautiful, that they would love to meet more of those types of people again and again. So have a nice chat, discuss, different things, what they have, and just develop friendship. I would say. That's it. You don't have to have the own reference type of attitude. That you could have for your guru, for master, senior leader. But just, I don't know. It comes down to the personality as well, who the person is. The person is jovial person, relaxed, and easy to get on with. Just have a nice, good relationship. Talk about different things. That you feel better, the person will feel better as well. I don't know. Does it make sense? Anyone would like to add anything to that? I haven't had the situation myself, so I don't really know. But I've always realized that that whenever you meet someone with love and affection, make them feel welcome, make them feel that you appreciate them. Just like when someone comes to your house, you make them feel welcome. You talk to them nicely, you offer them food, you give them a good smile. Most important thing, smile. Smile is very important. If you don't give the smile to someone, then it could be deemed as you don't appreciate, you don't like the person, and the person would not want to stay to your place for long. So having a nice, beautiful smile, that's why in customer service, even though you might not have good customers, you still have to have a good smile, right? You have to smile speak with good, nice smile and good voice. It's one of the foremost things in dealing with people. So make them feel welcome, make them feel appreciated, value them, and in that way you feel better. All right? No one else? No? We'll end up over here. Thank you very much for bearing with me. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to Srimad Hare Krishna.